Hello everyone, it's Arleta from the Health Geek Mom, and I'm going to take you along the video where I butcher a whole venison. There will be another video coming up, so please look out for the preparing of the venison and how I prep all the meat and how I make burgers, meatballs and other stuff from it. But that's coming next, and for now it's how do I butcher the venison. I must be honest, it takes longer than on the video. Definitely it takes more than 1 day for me. I just try to do it in a batches, and it goes in the fridge, goes back, and then I do what I can. It usually is a bit of a whole week process. Oh, and let's not forget, stick till the end, so I will tell you and show you all my calculation about how much meat and bones and everything I got from that one venison.
So this is actually the state I got the venison in. It is delivered by one of our neighbors who hunts for them in a season. Usually we stock up on meat in autumn, in winter as well. The hare season is throughout the winter as well. In autumn we often get beef or lamb from local farm as well. But the venison is one thing we do every year for stocking up on meat. And as I said, I butcher it myself at home as much as I can. My neighbor have been kind enough to take the meat apart into main groups like the back leg or the shoulder or the neck and so on. I have done this previously by myself, but I do have 2 small kids, and I know my kids wanted to go with me. I don't think my 3-year-old is ready for seeing the whole deer hanging. So therefore I really been grateful that my neighbor decided to just take it apart really quickly for me. So what you're seeing here is my very grumpy looking face, but that's really just my thinking face. I'm trying to figure out where to start and what to do with it. So I started here with the neck of the deer. So just taking all the pieces of meat I could from around it. This is the main fillets of it was already taken out. I just take all the meat I can take off for the stew or mince, and it goes all into a bowl. Seriously, I am not an expert. I just try to take every single sinew and whatever doesn't look quite right off. So you can see it's just me really trying to remove as much from that bone as possible. But also in our house nothing ever wastes, so whatever meat stays on the bones goes then in a stock. Here you can see me starting on the shoulder. My strategy overall was to start with the most difficult pieces and the one which are less enjoyable to butcher, so to speak, and then kind of leave the other stuff to deal with later. So this shoulder have been broken in a few pieces. That's where the bullet hit, so there was a bit of a damage. There's damage as well on the rib cage, so I'm trying to just remove all the broken pieces, the shards of the bone, everything, the bloody bits as well. Obviously there are the pooled blood in there because where the animal was shot. Because I have done this before a few times, I decided to generally focus on getting as much meat for mince and some nice fillets and steaks, and minimize the amount of big roasts and shanks and things like that. So this is actually, I have removed the meat from those bones and added them to the mince pile on the end, and the bones were kept for the broth and stocks. I should add that we don't really eat venison more often than once a week. On very rare occasion it will be twice a week, so there's also thinking in that how often we're going to eat it and how often I'm going to have time to cook specific cuts. And here you can see the rib cage. This is actually showing just exactly where the bullet went through. I have used my tiny saw to try to get this cut. I don't think it was the easiest thing to do. The secateurs I tried to use with her did work quite well on some small bones, so might have been easier if I tried it and attempted that. All the ribs went to stockpile. There wasn't really much, any meat I could have picked to the mince, and anything else was just cut into smaller pieces for the stock. You can see there is quite a lot of blood because that's what happens when where the bullet goes. So for people who don't hunt, you wouldn't really know when you're buying this in a shop, but obviously there's always going to be the part which got damaged from the shooting the animal. This is because of that as well, we did not get heart, which for me always is a kind of loss, but obviously I understand this, but I really like to always get the liver and the heart because those are organs. And I am actually a fast oxidizer when it comes to the metabolic typing, and I really do very well on purine or high purine foods. So venison is fairly high, or maybe more like medium purine. Organs are even higher in purine, so I always like to have the liver and the heart. Just to clarify, purines in foods are actually linked to increased amount of uric acids in the body, which are then linked to gout or hyperuricemia. I hope that I'm saying it right, and a few other diseases. But the understanding is that different people will metabolize uric acid in different way. This is quite complicated because if you go in a medical stuff, there's always linking of one compound to something and another to something. I personally do not believe that strictly. I truly believe that we are all very unique, and actually everyone's body will deal with certain things differently. So yes, while the purines may be linked to increased uric acid, which can then link to gout, that it doesn't mean that everyone will end up with those diseases. And actually for fast oxidizers, it is really quite important to have more complex protein. So purines are nucleoprotein, which helps to downshift tendency for the body to overly rely on glucose. So overall, it just actually helps to avoid hypoglycemia. So I know this might be quite a lot of information. I can geek out sometimes on this kind of stuff, but I do actually really often look into the complexity of the protein I'm eating, and based on that I will portion meat differently. So if, for example, go about 100 grams of venison for a adult, we don't like to eat overly too much. And the portions, I feel like when the meat is organic or game, it's actually so much more dense, and the quality of meat is very different, that you don't really need that much of it. At least that's my opinion. Okay, let's go back to actual butchering the venison. It took a while to cut all the bones, everything goes in a stock pot, and here I am starting on the rump or the leg. This is actually the more fun bits of butchering. It still takes very long time. You see, it shows you actually how much time it takes, because this is more like real life speed right now of me removing all the sinew. What I have used someone else's YouTube channel. I will link it in the description. I think his name is Scott Ray. He's a butcher, and I watched his videos a few times because he portioned venison in so so smoothly, so fast, clearly a professional. You know, I'm nowhere near as efficient, but I'm doing my best. What I'm trying to figure out with this leg, generally speaking, is just to find where the muscles are connecting and try to separate them between different groups of muscles. And that's more or less what gives you your premium cuts, like sirloin tip, rump, or bottom or top rounds. Here I must honestly say I panicked a bit. I think I watched the Scott's video and he was cutting something like that, but I don't think that femur bone meant to be cut with that piece of meat. Anyways, I kept it as a roast with the bone. Bones generally makes meat tastier, especially when cooked on the bone. Well, you live and learn. Here I'm just taking the shank off. I would definitely count myself as an amateur, obviously showing you guys what I am doing and how I dealt with it. I have done it maybe now 3 or 4 times, and I have learned from videos on YouTube. But this type of homesteading skills is something I brought from my childhood because I grew up on a farm. We have butchered our own animals. I mean, the pig was the biggest one we butchered, and generally that was my dad doing this. It wasn't something I did as a kid, but we did as well poultry and rabbits as well. So it was something I have learned to do as a kid. Actually, I knew how to pluck, gut and butcher a chicken because those were the most commonly eaten. Venison was completely a new type of meat for me. I didn't really know sometimes what to do with certain cuts, so there's lots of learning how to do the fillets right, how to not overcook them, how to which cuts to use for steaks and things like that. Here you can see most of those really nice cuts already done. I'm trying to figure out what to really do with it, and it took me quite a while. We also had obviously the loin from the back strap. There was really nice fillets there, so we kept them as a fillet. And from this leg area, mostly we did quite a few steaks and roasts. Some of the offcuts, like the one I'm just dealing right now, actually went in a stew. I do not generally keep lots of stew meat because for me stew is something what requires a bit more stovetop time, and often I need something was really quick, like a steak or a fillet that doesn't take too long, or something that I can put in a pressure cooker or slow cooker. So those type of cuts generally works better for me. I have learned this from experience now. As I said, we did it before, and I just remember that there are certain things which always wait in the freezer and being avoided and left till the very end. So these days when we're stocking up on any of the cuts, I am being very selective because it doesn't make sense to get something, pay for it, and it's just being avoided and not really used very often. So it does take quite a bit of thinking. I now simplify a lot. I know mince works, I know steaks works, and I know things which go in a pressure cooker and slow cooker works. On a different note, if you like the knife I'm using, just make sure that you check the links in the description box below. So here finally getting towards the end of the leg. I think that's the second one actually I have dealt with here. And here I am just doing the mince or ground meat, however you want to call it. I use Katie for that. Katie is our food processor because we do not have a mincer actually. I was planning to show you how I am mincing it, but I have had some problems with my footage, so not everything is going to show. So you can actually see the cuts I'm showing you. So this is all the offcuts I'm using for mince. I use the double blade in the food processor and just put small amount of meat at a time and then remove it. Some of the sinew does wrap around the blade. I would say the coarseness is obviously not something I can control very well because I am putting different chunks, you know, unless they're all cut very similar size. Some of them will mince faster than others, but it doesn't necessarily bother me terribly. I also weigh all the cuts and write it down just so I know how much meat and meals I got out of it. I'm going to show you the numbers later on, and here you can just see the consistency of the mince. It looks quite mince and mushy, but actually there's still texture to it. It's just it comes out in a bit different form because it was done in a food processor as opposed to mincer. Thank you so much for sticking that long with me. Here are the numbers. So 2 portions of liver, 2 portions of stew, 4 portions of fillets, 3 portions of steaks, 3 portions of roast, 6 small packs or portions of jerky. Bones, I got 2.9 kilograms, almost 3 kilograms, which gave me 4.2 liters of rosu or broth or stock. In addition to that, I still have 1 large pack of bones for gravy or another stock and 1 small pack for soup. I also added mince here. You can see the number of different meals I got: meatloaf, meatballs and burgers. In total I had about 3.4 kilogram of mince, which is about almost 7.5 pounds. It came up as 44 meals, not including the broths and the meat I pulled off the bones from the broth. The meat from the broths been used in the bigos, which is a hunter stew, Polish hunter stew. Also totaled of all the meat was almost 11 kilograms, which I think is about 25 pounds. The portions are portions for our family of 4, so there's 2 adults and 2 young kids, so obviously it's quite small portions. For example, the 477 grams total of liver, I had 2 portions out of it, so that's about 238 grams of liver per meal for 4 of us.
So here we go. Hopefully you have enjoyed this. It has been a long process and it takes longer than the professionals. I hope that I actually had butchered it, not butchered it. But that said, it's the reason why I do it always at home is because it's so much cheaper. Paying for a butcher is very, very expensive. And if you liked it, please let me know. If you didn't like it, please let me know too. If you have any tips about what I can do better and how I should do it, or where I can learn better, please let me know as well in the comments. I am absolute amateur. I have done it maybe 3 times, maybe 4. So there is a steep learning curve for me. Please subscribe if you want to hear more about the natural, unprocessed, simple living. Until the next time.